In this next section, we're going to look at how to patch a contributed module to add some modifications that haven't been already rolled into an official release. Now, to explain why we're talking about this now instead of before version control, we are going to integrate various aspects of version control in with this process. And so it helps to have that background with version control. Also on Windows, the patch tool that we're going to use to execute the patch doesn't exist by default. It needs to be installed. And when you install the mysys git package, it also installed the patch command. So I say this just because if you're watching this as a standalone video, you can follow along no problem, but we will be integrating some aspects of version control. To get set up, let's go ahead and jump to the resource pack directory. And here, in the patches folder, we have a folder called Advanced Help. Advanced Help is a contributed module, and what we've done is copied a particular version of it and extracted all of the miscellaneous files that aren't involved with the patch, so it only has a few files in it. And then we have our patch file here, which has a pretty long name. Now, the typical process of finding a patch is reading through an issue queue on Drupal.org for the particular module, and somebody posts a patch that fixes a problem or that adds a new feature, and you're able to download that patch as a text file to apply to a particular version of the module. So the name of this patch should follow a particular convention. It doesn't always, but this is the ideal. So it has the name of the module, it has a description of the issue around which this patch was created, it has the node ID for this discussion. So if you want to learn more about this, you can go to drupal.org/node/ and then this number. And then the final number is the comment number where this patch was added to the discussion. So let's begin by copying over this advanced folder into our development site, and we're going to put it in our sites, all modules contrib directory. We'll just pretend this is a fully functional contributed module, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it in. Now, let's go ahead and open up this patch. I'm going to drag it over to my editor to take a look at the actual file. This structure might look pretty familiar from when we used the diff statement in Git to compare one file with another. So at the very top here, we have information about what file this affects. We have any renaming of the file that occurs. And then we have the lines that were removed, marked with a minus sign, and lines that were added, marked with a plus sign. So if you were to look at the code changes here carefully, what you'd see is that there's this loop happening here, this for each loop, and it's simply being surrounded by this if is set for modules before it runs through the for each loop. And all of the rest of the lines have changed because their indentation level has changed. So this for each is the same as this for each, but you can see that it's indented a little bit. So our patch command will be able to read through this and apply any changes that were made to the original files. Now let's go ahead and get set up to apply this patch by adding our module to version control. Once we have a snapshot of the module in version control, we can then apply a patch without running the risk of maybe making some modifications that we're not able to change very easily, because we can always roll back to the original snapshot. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to the command line, and let's go ahead and do a quick git status here. So we have our sites all modules contrib advanced help. So I'm going to go ahead and add all of these files. So I'm going to copy the path, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a git add, and then paste in the path and hit enter. And now let's go ahead and commit this. So my commit message is added advanced help module in preparation for patch, and I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so it added our 3 files. So at this point, we have a snapshot. So as we apply our patch, we'll be able to always roll back to this point. So at this point, we can go ahead and apply our patch. I'm going to jump to our resource pack directory, and here under the patches folder is our patch. Let's copy this. So I'm going to right click and select copy, and then let's paste it inside of our advanced help folder. Now this won't be its permanent resting place, but this makes the patching process just a little bit quicker because we don't need to do long paths. I'm going to jump back to the command line, So now that our patch is in place, let's navigate to the Advanced Help folder. So I'm just doing a cd sites all modules contrib advanced help and hitting enter. And now this is the command that we're going to use. It's pretty straightforward. It's patch, which is the name of the command. We're passing the p1 parameter, which will strip off the beginning of any path that's mentioned inside of the patch file. And then we're using the left arrow to indicate that we're moving a patch in, and then we have the name of the patch file. And when we hit enter, we'll get a message which says patching file advancedhelp.module. Now patches can affect multiple files, but this one only affects the .module file. Now if we do a git diff, we'll see what changes have been made from this patch. So before, we looked at the patch file and we saw these changes, and now if we look at them in the command line, we'll see them again. But this time, the changes that we're looking at are changes in our actual files. So if we do a git status, I'm going to hit Q to exit out of Vim there, we'll see that we have a modified file advanced help, and then we have our patch file that we added in. Now at this point, we don't want to add the patch to version control. We're actually going to put it somewhere else. But let's go ahead and commit our change that was made through the patch by first staging our advanced help module file with git add advanced help.module. I'm going to hit enter. And now let's do a commit. So our command here is git commit applied invalid argument patch to advanced help module. And I'll hit enter. So at this point, we have two snapshots, one of the original module and one of the patched module. Now, in the future, we may update this module, download a new package for our module, but this patch may still need to apply. This is particularly the case if we create custom patches that allow us to add some custom functionality to a contributed module. Now, we want to keep a hold of these patches somewhere. So one way to do this is by creating a patches folder within each module that contains the patches. And then when we download the new version of the module, we'll unpack it or untar it above what's there already, making sure to retain the patches. And then we can reapply the patches. Let's go ahead and demonstrate that. So I'm going to jump back to the file directory here. And inside of our advanced help folder, I'm going to create a new folder called patches. And then I'm going to add our patch to it. So now we have our patch inside of our patches folder. And now at this point, we can go ahead and add this patch directory to version control. So I'm going to go ahead and do git add patches. And if we do a git status, we see that we've added our new file here, the patch file. Now again, we're inside of our advanced help directory. Let's go ahead and do a git commit. So the command here is git commit, and then the message is added patches directory to advanced help module. And I'll hit enter. Okay, so now we have three states. We have our initial module, we have our patched module, and then we have a version of our module that includes the patches folder, which will contain any patches that we apply to our module that we may need to apply to future updates to the module.